Jai Gurudev, everyone. My name's Asha Dasi, and I'm writer and facilitator of the Mirrors work. And today I'm going to be doing one of my very first podcasts with Swami Paranthapa. Now, we do realize that you have seen him on lots of different podcasts with other people, and you know his story quite intimately. But today you're going to see a completely different side of him. It's the side of him that has experienced the Mirrors work and his journey to becoming who he is today. That's what he's going to talk to us about. So, having said all of that, let's go over and meet him and listen to his story. So, Swamiji, thank you so much for coming on to this, one of the very first Mirrors Work podcasts. And we've got a lot to talk about today because people want to know about your Mirrors Work journey. So let's just start at the beginning. What happened? How did you come across the Mirrors work?
Thank you so much, Ashadasi, for having me. And it's really cool to be in this place with you now.
Oh, yeah.
So it's been a long time. It's been a long time. And we met each other about 18 years ago, right?
18 years, it is. Yep.
And
all that time. It's gone so quickly.
A lot of time, a lot of time. And so we first met each other and I don't think that either of us knew that like how our relationship would grow or what would come out of it.
No.
But it was an immediate familiarity. So that was really interesting for me. And then when did the Mirrors work start? I would say that it was always happening between us.
Yeah.
There was always, because it was such a really big part of your life.
Yes.
And having it for such a long time. I don't think that it was named at the beginning at all.
It was what the Mirrors work actually started as the master's journey. And it was very much rooted in Advaita Vedantic thinking.
Yes.
Rather than
that much now. I understood. Much I understood by how the initial manual was written. It was very Advaita Vedanta.
Yeah. And I think you heard about it through one of the people that had been on my course. And that's when I got a call from you. I got a call from this stranger saying, hello, I'd like to meet you. And that was like just amazing to get that call from you. And I came around.
I remember I was up in Matapeng. It's a mutual place for us in different ways. And there were like lots of coincidences that led both of us to that place.
Yes.
And then so she was there and she was mentioning you and the work that she'd been doing with you in self-development. And so she shared a little bit and then I was curious. So I gave you a call and then I think we had an appointment to meet each other the next Friday.
Yes.
The Friday after that, the Saturday that I met. So it was literally a week. Yeah. And then you came. And I think we were from the very beginning, familiar. What would you say? We were very familiar to each other.
Straight away. I mean, it was as if we'd always known each other. It was quite something, I'll just never forget that first meeting. But it was also very strange for me because I wasn't familiar with all things Hindu at that time. And, the whole place was set up with Guruji's pictures, with Babaji, with pictures that were that had vibhuti coming from them. And I just thought, my God, what is this? Beautiful incense, strange music.
There
you
were. That's when the music miracle was happening.
Clothing. Yeah, sorry.
So you didn't know, but at the time in my room, what was happening is the CD player that I had no repeat function. Yeah. There was no repeat function on it, but there was a song describing specific qualities of the. It was the 108 names of Durga, and what happened, I noticed one day, is that this CD was repeating itself continuously without being prompted to do so. So it would just, and that was the only CD that did it. And that was the only song that it was done that it was happening on.
Yeah.
And so the picture in the room was giving kumkum, actually, which is the red powder.
Yes.
And that is, of course, sacred to her. And so now when I put two and two together,
It
I
was always
see
meant to be.
how it was happening.
Yeah.
And so anyway, then we met, and almost immediately because my story before that was I had studied almost every conceivable handheld method of healing. So I started with Reiki when I was in my late teens. I think I was just about to turn 20 when I did my first level of Reiki. But then it evolved from there to so many other things. So so by the time I met you, I had almost finished learning every methodology
Yeah.
that there was to learn in healing. And my biggest quest at the time, and it continues to be now, is to see like what stands in the way of me really being myself and really being happy.
Yeah.
uh, because that feeling of love um, avoids us unless it's what we quest for.
Yeah.
And I think that we all do,
Yes.
and that our lives give us the opportunity to see that we are questing for it, but we don't necessarily identify, or I didn't necessarily identify, that the painful things that were happening were a part of that,
Yes.
because we tend to avoid, or we tend to obsess over what gives us discomfort.
Yes,
So,
because just to interrupt you for a moment, because basically the path that Guruji has set out for us to self-realization, to eventually to God realization, it's a path of love. And
yeah,
we're always moving along that path because it's the heart that's yearning for that love. That's
yeah,
what's really we're yearning for ourselves. But
mm,
along that path, there are many boulders along the way.
mm,
What we don't realize are those boulders are our thinking patterns, the way
mm,
that we think about ourselves, the way that we think about other people, the way that we
mm,
think about God, the way that we even approach Guruji. Those are all boulders in the road. And they're so painful. And as you say, Swami, it's that we try to avoid them, and we don't realize
mm.
that we're staying still.
Yeah. And that they're a gift. They really are a gift to us
Yes.
if we can meet them with acceptance. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was like a lot of what really happened for me with you is that for because I was watching you, right? I was watching how you struggled with what you struggled with,
Mm-hmm.
and how you always came to a place where you understood and accepted.
Yes.
And so I think that for a lot of for all intents and purposes, by then I had figured out how to make huge effects in people's bodies,
Mm-hmm.
right? I also understood the link between the body and the mind, and that the two were sort of interlinked,
Yes.
but not to the degree where there was really where there was really acceptance.
Yeah.
That wasn't there yet. So
Mm-hmm.
I could see the mechanism of some things, and I could see what would happen if somebody did accept something. If somebody did see the link between a way of thinking and that, for example, was causing their backache, or that was causing their some difficulty inside of their body. So I
Yeah.
understood, and also from just learning the different techniques and modalities, that the physical body is the last place where things show up,
Yes.
and that when we reverse engineer it, we can fix it. So my focus was like basically on the physical body and
Mm-hmm.
on the problems that can appear there. And
Mm-hmm.
so my idea of healing was confined to that, was confined to, okay, we make a little mental changes, and then these physical changes can happen.
Yeah.
But then what would happen is the person would again bring themselves into a different place where the limitation would reappear. And often it would also reappear physically. So there must be something more. And I think the my intense curiosity then to figure out how would I solve that conundrum now? Like what solution will come to is what then led me further along the way and to the place where I can then just really look at at this mind, at my mind, and to
Yes.
see what the beliefs are that it holds so dear,
Mm. Yeah.
and how that translates into my experience of happiness or sadness or pleasure or the like the opposites, so and so and it had to be experiential first because those things were so real and so painful, and
Yes.
there's no way around them.
No,
You
that's right.
cannot circumvent them. What you feel was pain to you is always going to be pain, is always going
Yes.
to be pain. Until you don't see it differently, it's always going to be pain.
Yes, and the mirrors work teaches you. It says teaches you, just as you were saying, it teaches you to go that one step further,
Yeah.
to say, what is this communicating to me about the way that I think,
Mm,
the way that I have positioned myself in the world, the way that I view myself,
mm,
the way that I view God, all of those
mm.
things. It's all those questions that need to be asked if
Yeah.
you're truly healed, because healing is all about love. All of our pain, the mirrors work teaches that all of our pain is there because we are not loving enough,
Mm,
because something is in the way of loving others completely and utterly, loving ourselves completely and utterly, having a true and real connection to God. That's what pain, that is what the source of all pain is. And we miss that in the healing professions. We come a certain way with it, but we stop at the body. And
yeah.
as you said, the mirrors work helps you to make that leap.
More than it's more
Yes.
than. And I
Yes.
mean, if then you bring something totally different to the table, but
Yeah.
it's not always palatable for for people, and it
Yeah.
requires it because I mean everybody wants a quick fix.
Yeah.
Everybody wants, like, if I see in my relationship with Guruji, I can categorically say from him, I have never wanted a quick fix for anything. I've never asked in my head.
Hmm.
I never asked for a quick
He
fix.
wouldn't give it to you anyway.
but I never,
There's
I
no
can
point
say
asking.
categorically, I never asked.
Yeah.
I never
And we
asked.
shouldn't ask. We shouldn't
No,
ask
we should not ask.
because we should be
We should
prepared
not.
to face the way that we
Yes,
think. Because if we truly
yes,
want God
yes,
realization at the end of this
yes.
thing, we have to be prepared to face
We have
everything
to
that's
shovel.
painful. Yeah.
We have to shovel.
Yeah.
There's no other way.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Because it
no other
burns.
way.
It really burns.
And it has to. It has
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
It has to do. And if it's not painful, then you're not going in the right direction, unfortunately.
Yeah.
If
So
you
what was your
don't
what was your
face
very first course? Can you tell us a little bit about that? What was your experience of the very first course that you did with the mirrors work?
with you,
Yeah.
well, so it was 2008, and Guruji had done it. It was really interesting. So I want to go to the time just before that, though.
Okay.
To the time just before that, when so I'd initiated you and Lance as devotees, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, and then this was in 2008 as well.
Yes.
And so, but just after that, in the September, I think, of that year, or just before September, Guruji had come to South Africa.
Yes.
And I remember this moment when we were sitting in his room. You were
Mhm.
having sort of your first conversation with him,
Yes.
and you were asking about like what was going on. Actually, this is after the workshop that we did together.
I can't
So
quite remember the timelines, but you're better at that than I am. That's because you're
so
younger.
you were sitting there, and then you were asking him about a mystery school, right? And like a mystery school with the teachings of Mahavadar Kriya Babaji, right?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah. And he said, you can do, but don't put Babaji in the front. Keep him in the back. And
Yeah.
then he said something about you, and he said something about me. And the feeling sort of was that there will be that you will teach this work. And then it was really clear because I wasn't a Swami yet, I don't think. It was the year before I became
Yeah.
a Swami.
Yeah.
And then he indicated that I will in a different way, but that they'll be teaching, and that it was sort of like you go your way and let him go his way, kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And then so the way that this work started was it's 2008, and we had our center in Highlands North, not Highlands North, and just in Orange Grove. Do you remember that center?
Yes. Yes.
In Johannesburg. And so you'd come there for the initiation, and so it was 3 days after this, and I was sitting in Guruji's room, actually, facing the window, and I was going through my telephone and looking for numbers that I don't need anymore, so I was deleting. So then I came to your number. And then I thought, oh, I should phone her and see how she's doing. So I'm laughing because if I look at the picture from the other side
Yeah.
and what was happening to you at the time,
Yeah.
it's so crazy. It's so crazy. And then I call you and you're screaming. You're like, why did you call me? Why did you call? And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm just calling to check on you. And then you tell me he's here. And I'm like, who's here? Who's where? What are you talking? What are you talking about? And we've never really spoken about this publicly, right?
Yeah. No.
And so this is the first time that we're going there, that we're speaking about it. But I think it's super important to see the backing of this and where this comes from, and
Yeah.
how important it is for all of us.
Yeah.
And what an incredible thing Guruji did for, I can say, for me at such a difficult time in the organization, and for him.
Yes. Because
Because
what,
literally
just to clarify, what happened is he I
he
was in
smashed.
I was in a meditative state, and then suddenly his
He was
face popped in,
there,
and
yeah.
and then he showed me a man in a turban.
Yeah.
I didn't know who the man was.
Yeah.
And then he was telling me, giving me
To
some
go with him.
to go with him and to
Yeah.
help start creating the course and start changing the course that I already had.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit skeptical. So I said, look, I don't know if all of this is true or if I've just got a very vivid imagination, because I do have a very vivid imagination and I don't always
Really
trust.
mildly. You're putting it really
Yes.
mildly.
And so I said, if this is real, then please could you ask Paranthapa
To call me right
chief
now,
exec
yeah.
to call
Yeah.
me now. And he said, no, not now. He's
It will
busy.
take
He'll call at 4:30.
Yeah,
And
it will take half an hour, yeah, he said.
yes.
Yeah.
And so I didn't think that was going to happen. And I went and sat on the loo. I went and sat on the
Yes,
loo, and
you're right.
suddenly 4:30 exactly, the phone rang. And it was you, and I was so shocked. I was so shocked. That's how I knew that these things were real.
Yes.
That was my first. These were the beginning of my first experiences that Guruji
Yeah.
is a bit weird.
And then
He talks to us in these ways,
remember, until then you had no idea or inclination to this guru disciple. You were
No,
ardently against it, actually. You were
that's
ardently
yeah.
against.
So he was showing me,
Yeah.
no, this is real, and
Yeah.
showing me non-physical teachers
Yes.
to help me to create the work. And I remember at the time trying to almost like to continue doing the
What
course
you
as I was
wanted to
doing
do,
it,
yes.
and
Yeah.
them saying no,
No.
it's all got to change. But it took me
Yeah.
a long time before I really
Yes.
listened to the advice.
Yes.
And
how interesting that it happened just after the initiation, because it
yes,
wasn't
yes,
happening in that way before then. I mean,
yes,
you had your sense of connection and you
yeah,
had the work that you were doing, and it was going the way that it was going until that point. And
yeah.
after those huge life changes happened for you, now you were there, and he was also there.
And what's important is that I was doing the mirrors work, but but with a completely different focus. And
Mm,
he wouldn't let me bring it to his devotees yet.
yes.
It didn't matter if it went outside, but not to
Yeah.
the devotees. And that was my own journey. So he had to take me through a journey to develop it in such a way that it completely aligned with his
With
teachings
him. Yes.
and with Bhagavad Gita teachings.
Yes.
And it took me
Yes.
a long time
A long
to
time,
develop.
yeah.
So, in a sense, the mirrors work. It reflects my own journey with
Your
him.
own journey, and it
Yes.
really does. And it
Yeah.
really does, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And so like, and then like being there with you, and if you count,
Mm.
we came back and forth into each other's lives every
Yes.
4 years.
Yes.
Every 4 years we would come into each other's lives, and
Yeah.
periodically there would be a lot of activity between us,
Yes.
a lot of back and forth. It lasts usually like 3 to 4 months, and then suddenly we would be out of each other's lives
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
and then back again. And my fight the whole time was just become a devotee. That was my
Yeah.
fight the whole time. And you were
Yeah.
like, no,
Yeah. Because technically
no.
I was, because in 2008 you initiated us. So
Yes,
technically I was a
that
devotee,
technically you were.
but I was a very
Technically,
bad
but
one.
you
I was an
exactly.
uncommitted devotee.
Yeah, yeah.
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 So
But
yeah.
even that grace, so
Yeah.
even that initial grace
Yes.
fast forwarded so many things and
Yeah.
brought so many new things into your space.
Yes, it did.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
then so back
Yes, give us
to the
something
mo.
that transformed you. That's what we're
Yeah,
interested. What was your initial experiences on the course itself, and
yeah.
what was it? What would you say was one of your major shifts that you made?
So I can contextualize it now, right?
Yes.
I can contextualize it now after going through this whole learning program, especially
Mm,
with the Datmya Vedanta. I can,
mm,
through this new understanding, this new filter of the Datmya Vedanta, I can make a lot more sense of
mm,
what he was doing, of what Guruji was doing for me at the time.
mhm,
And so there's a really cool thing in Tadatmya called Pratyabhigna.
mhm,
So Pratyabhigna means, so there's two kinds of Pratyabhigna. There's Lokika Pratyabhigna and Alokika Pratyabhigna. So Pratyabhigna means like this strong a remembrance triggered either from the senses or from beyond the senses, beyond the self. So I had two really strong Pratyabhigna experiences. So the one was in a workshop the workshop the first sort of mirrors work that I did with you in an official capacity was at Matlapeng, right?
yes.
The second really big one was those. It was actually the 9 days of Navaratri 2008.
Yes.
That
Yes.
was the second big work.
In a showy.
So yes, in Eshawi.
Mm,
So let's talk about the first one first.
mm,
So I had just become a brahmachari. Oh no, I was just about to become a brahmachari. And so it was really clear in my mind that
mhm.
my life was going in that direction.
Yeah.
But there was I had pretty much no knowledge about Guruji at all.
Yeah.
I had no real knowledge about him. I had met him a few times. I had had darshan a few times, but not really even a conversation with him. But it was really clear to me that my life belongs in that sort of, and this was really clear to me. And the exercises that you gave that were really incredible for me was around the experience of connection and mastery in our lives.
Yeah.
right? So we sat, and then the exercise that you had given is, so in a 3 kilometer radius in the bush, you had hidden a bottle of water, and you had hidden a packet of crisps. And we had broken into groups of two. In my group, there were three because we were odd numbered. And our job was to go out and find either the crisps or the water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what you explained essentially before we went out is that whatever we want also wants us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the mirror.
Yeah.
Whatever we want also wants us. So if we project it into the world, it has to
Mm-hmm.
come back, because the signal is coming from both ends, right? The signal is coming from both ends. So the
Yes.
thing we want also wants us, right? So we go out as a group, and we don't find anything in the allotted time, because we had like a half an hour to find. And
Yes.
you called us back. You called us back, and you wrapped us. You wrapped us. It was like, you can't even find a packet of chips. And how will you find anything else? How will
Yeah.
you experience anything else?
Because the whole idea, okay, just for the people listening to this and watching this, is to focus on it. They were actually hidden. They were buried, and you had
Yeah,
to
they were
find the
not easy
spot.
to find.
And it was about focusing. It's about what is your level of focus
Mm,
on your goal, and what
yes.
gets in the way of that.
Yeah.
So that was very, very important.
Yeah.
That's a very important factor behind that
Yes.
exercise.
This is really
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, then we go out, and we find the chips. But like within 2 minutes, we find the chips.
Yeah.
And so then we use the very specific intent to find water.
Mm.
And so we walk around, and we keep coming back. 3 times we come back to the same place because we're focusing on water.
Yeah.
And then I look down, and there's a pipe in the ground with a tap attached to it. And so I open the tap, and water comes out.
Yeah.
And then I say to them, no, we have to focus on the specifics of
Yes.
what it is that we want. So, what is it? It's a Nestle bottle of water.
Mm.
It's this many milliliters. This
Mm.
is what we have to find. And I say to them, donate the intention and your focus to me, and let me look for it.
Mm.
And so, what begins then to happen was really interesting. So, my mind begins to speak to me and tell me how useless I am,
Mm.
and tell me that you've been in this. It literally said to me, you've been in this game for such a long time, and look at you. You can't even find a bottle of water. But it was bombarding me with negative self-speak,
Yeah.
right? And it was doing in such a way that I could see my focus, and I could see the voice. I could hear the voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what it is that I have to do, and I can hear the voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I then understood that all I have to do is keep focusing on what it is that I have to. It didn't stop my mind from saying the things that it was saying. It
Yeah.
kept on doing. It
Mm-hmm.
kept on, and it became more and more rapid, more and more like it was almost desperate to prevent me from understanding or
Yes.
finding something,
Mm.
finding the reality. And so then it is at its peak bombardment, because it was like automatic rifle, no shooting.
Yeah.
It was trying its best to get me away from the thing that I'm focusing on. It was trying very hard. So,
Mm.
and then I began to understand why. I began to ask myself, why is it trying so hard?
Yeah.
What is it? What is it preventing me? What does it not want me to experience?
Mm.
And so what happened is, suddenly everything falls away. And I look down in the grass, and there's a hologram of the bottle, an exact duplicate of the bottle, that acts as a pointer to where the bottle actually is.
Yeah.
And what you've done is, like in a bundle of grass, is literally you knotted the grass around the bottle. So I took two steps. And then I thought, what I thought really, Ashadasi, is I thought there would be elation in finding the water,
Mm.
but there wasn't. It didn't feel like an accomplishment. It didn't feel like there was no, it, it just felt like, and
Obvious,
then, and there was like, and then,
part of who you are.
and then
Yeah.
it was like a natural thing. I
Yes.
thought at least there would be a jubilation, but there was not.
Because it was not of the ego.
Yeah, it
Because the
was
ego
just
becomes jubilant. But
excited. Yes,
when it's true to who you are, it's,
it's just
oh
like,
yeah, that's natural
yeah,
to me. When
it
those
was
voices
just
are not trying
exactly.
to distract you and telling
Yeah.
you you can't do this.
Or
So
to praise you. Oh, look at what you did.
yes, yeah,
It wasn't there. There was nothing. There
yes,
was nothing. There was no naysaying, and there was
yeah.
no praise.
Because the mirror's work asks you, it says, what is your true focus? What is your real focus? Are you going to focus on all the negative self talk, or are you going to focus on who you truly are and where God is? You know, is that your true? And Guruji asks
Yeah.
us, what is your real focus?
Mm.
What is your goal? If you focus on the goal and then and you drown out everything else, then you're going to achieve it. You know, so how
And
did
that
that?
was it
So
was
how did that realization? How did it? What did it do for you? In
Well, it stayed. It stayed, and it. What I
mm,
began to see then is my pride. I began
mm,
to for that. I think that was the beginning of beginning to see how
mm,
the ego works
mm,
and what it means to be egoistic as well. What it means to be
mm,
prideful. This began to emerge
mm.
then, because it's like building a house on sand, right?
Yes.
So you build in the hope of recognition. You build in the hope of, and I mean the thought process still goes. Even just yesterday, because the reflection will happen automatically.
Mm,
Automatically, reflection will happen. It's like, where is the focus? What is the focus on? Is it on the problem or solution to the problem?
mm,
What is it that is being chased? Is the goal being chased as as a need to be happy? That means, am I doing this because I want something material out of it? Um, am I making something material responsible for my happiness? All of these things automatically now happen inside of my
mm.
awareness.
Yeah.
I can't escape, from because it's almost like a program that I can't escape from it. And if somebody, for example, says something that I'm like this or like that, I can't escape from the fact that it's true.
Yes.
I can't
Yeah.
escape from the fact that
Mm.
whatever they're saying is true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then, so after this, the second exercise that we had to do, so it was all confirming the same thing, that what you want wants you, what you're looking for is looking for you. If your focus remains, right?
Only if your
And
focus is there.
only, or it
Yeah.
doesn't, otherwise, no.
Mm.
If
Yeah.
you're not looking for this, you will not find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't find unless it's really what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So the determination is, and the intention comes from your side,
Hmm.
and then the way it will happen also comes naturally. So the second exercise was to find a lost person, and I remember it was the first time I worked with those, what do you call them, dowsing rods. You had given us dowsing rods
Yes.
to become an extension of our intention, right?
Yes.
Um, and so, and what I noticed then is the connection was made earlier. The connection was made earlier that what you want also wants you. So this stayed with me.
Hmm.
This state was really real for me. And then the confirmation of the experience of finding the chips and finding the water. So this happened, right? so this really marked in my mind. And then so we went out, and I knew exactly where my teammates had hidden. I knew exactly where they were. I didn't even use the dowsing rods. I just went straight to it. It was so clear. My mind was so clear.
Mm.
My mind was so clear at the time. So I just went straight to where they are, and I found them. And we were back. First, and then it was my turn to hide. So I chose where I was going to hide, and I was sending the message because our job was just to send, "I'm here." They came to where I was 5 times. I was hiding under the house, but they were so busy talking to one another that they lost focus.
Yes,
They
yes.
lost, they lost focus. So, so I managed to attract a dog. I managed to attract 2 cats. I managed to attract the ostrich. Everybody, everybody came, but not. They had come 5 times, and
Yeah,
they stood even like right in eye shot.
yeah.
And then eventually, when they became quiet, when they were quiet again, and they were
Mm.
thinking why they couldn't find me, one of them just bent down, and I was there and hiding under the
Yeah.
hiding under the house. But the point, I think the point of it was, the mirror's work really showed me then, and continues to show me that everything is with it's is within us.
Yes,
The problem is with us, and the solution is also with us.
yes,
And both just require the clear focus.
yes,
And like that, I go back to Arjuna chapter 1 Bhagavad Gita, and his experience, the experience that he's having, of not remembering anything, of not and we start like that.
yes.
We start our journey like that, not remembering anything,
Yeah, yeah,
and then or thinking that we know.
yes. And
So
what's important about the mirror's work is that it shows you. It's like there's you have those field exercise was showing you that if you focus hard enough, on your real self, that's what you're going to get. You're going to find.
yeah.
But what happens is all those other thoughts get in the way.
Mm,
And the mirror's work is about looking at those thoughts and realizing, my God, I project them outwards. So
yes.
everybody that I meet is always going to be
An
absolutely
incarnation of my thoughts.
exactly
Yeah,
only
they
that.
are the
They are a
incarnation. Yeah.
projection. How I see them is a
Yeah.
projection of who I am. I cannot
Yes.
see anything but myself.
Not
It's
it goes even
yeah,
further. I cannot see anything but my thoughts. That's what I
that's it.
realized.
That's it.
I see
It's your
my thoughts.
thoughts. Yeah,
Because if I was seeing myself, I would be at peace, and so would they.
yeah, yeah.
But I see my thoughts, I see my disturbed thoughts, I see my fears,
Or you see your
I
disturbed
see my
self.
story. Yes,
Yes,
I,
your
I see
disturbed
my
self. Yeah.
story. I
Yes.
see my
Yes.
story. I see the
Yeah.
waves in the ocean of my subconscious mind, in
Yeah.
the people that I meet,
Yeah.
and in the situations that are difficult for me to deal with, and that they're so pivotal for us. They're so pivotal for me.
Yeah.
Um, and so then the next exercise we did that was really remarkable for me is when we walked the labyrinth. But before walking the labyrinth, we went into the Hall of Mirrors. So the intention was to see, the first one was to see what is it that is preventing me. At the moment, what it is that preventing me from being where I can be in this moment,
Can you just
right?
explain to the viewer what the exercise was?
Okay.
Mm,
So it was really cool. It was in a domed hut,
mm,
and in this domed hut, there were many statements.
mm.
They're called mirror statements.
Yeah.
There were many mirror statements, and they were placed face down in this room. And so, what we had to do is to go into the room with the intention of finding what it is that stands in the way.
Mhm.
What that means, what is the current challenge?
So you have to focus on what is it that you were seeking
Yes.
and really focus on that seeking and then pick up one of the cards.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the first entrance into the Hall of Mirrors was, what is the impediment to that seeking?
Yes.
What must be overcome first in order to arrive at the goal?
Mm-hmm.
And so I received mine, and then it had to do with belief. So the statement tied up lots of egocentricity, the idea of believing that one knows before one knows. This was the kind of feeling that there was. And so what was clear to me at that time, or what the burning issue was, or the goal was going to Mauritius to see Guruji and become brahmachari, basically. This was the then goal. This was the then goal. And so I mean, having no idea in my mind of what that meant, what it would mean to enter the path with him. So only having the idea in my mind that this is the step, because he initiated his first brahmacharis that December, and we were doing this work around the same. Oh, he had initiated his brahmacharis the December before. We were doing this work in February.
Right. Yeah.
It was in end of January, beginning of February. We were doing, and so I think it was the second last weekend in February that year, because then we would go to Mauritius for Shivaratri, and it was just before Shivaratri that I was initiated as a brahmachari. So then walk the. I remember that I didn't finish. I didn't finish the mental exercise or the internal exercise required to do the next part of the exercise, which was to walk a labyrinth in a specific way. But the mirror confirmed, because I went back inside and to see, and the mirror confirmed that whatever had needed to switch had switched, right? And I mean, it's ongoing. It's really ongoing.
Yeah.
And then the willingness to take, I think, and then the next step is like the willingness to take responsibility for it, and for our part in what is going on, then becomes really visible, becomes really clear.
Yes.
So as we started working, then as we started working, um it really gave words for the experience that I went through.
Okay.
And
Can
it
you
gave
tell people what happened, the retreat that we went on, and what that meant to you?
Nishavan,
Yeah.
yeah. So it 2008, and I'd just become a Swami, and so the whole thing was, it's like, if you're given a gift like that, like the gift of, like, literally your whole life purpose is made clear to you by this initiation, by the initiation that it's giving, which means essentially that you're here to serve, right? You're here to serve in whichever way it is that you can, his mission, and that he gives the really clear parameters, because everything is really clear then. In which way do you serve? You serve by imparting knowledge. Which knowledge? The knowledge that he's providing. So your life work, your life purpose is abundantly clear through the initiation given. And what that initial work did in Ashawi, that we did. So there were so many things that happened in that time.
Can you just explain to the viewer what we did?
Yeah,
This.
I'll go through the
Yeah.
steps. I'll go through the steps. So what had happened is, so 2008 came, And this is in September 2008. And Guruji is changing the entire structure of the organization. So he releases all brahmacharis. And then you had that experience where he was coming to, where it appeared in your mind's eye, and he was asking you to go with him. And so you went to this place where you met a person, and this person was speaking to you. And in particular, that person was speaking to you about me. So you kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And eventually you called me and you said that we have to do some work. And you said that it will probably be in the shape of a workbook, but you had some doubts about whether any of this process was real. And so you said that you really wanted to speak with Guruji about it, but you don't know like how to because you want to verify that this is real.
Yes.
So we had just finished or in the process of doing Yagna, Mahasudarshan Yagna, I remember, was happening in the center. And there was a guest from Germany there in the center
Remember
that,
her, yes.
yeah, she was there. And you called me and you said you're coming over and that you want to speak to me. And it was really serious. And that I should just listen. I shouldn't say anything in return. And so you described the person that you had been speaking to in this place that Guruji had taken you to. And you said, so I knew immediately who it was from the description. And so I kept with me an incense box of that saint. It was Shirdi Sai. I kept it on my lap. And then you came into the room, I remember, and you sat down and you had a book with you. And on the book, there were many points.
Yeah.
And then you were speaking and I was listening. And then, and you had asked me not to say anything. And at the moment that I said that I said something, you turned the paper around and you showed me what was written, and it was written, "At this point, he will say he will say something." So in my mind, I was like, "How dare this, or whoever this old man is?" Because it was something. Because it was quite intimate and personal to me. And then I remember that the phone rang, and I didn't even realize that there was a phone in the ashram, a house phone in the ashram. And so it was picked up, and then I remember the German guest brought it into the lounge because it was Guruji.
Mm.
Guruji was on the phone, and then I answered, and then he said to me, "Give the phone to that woman." So I handed the phone to you, and you went to speak with him outside. I still don't know what you guys discussed. So what did you talk about in that telephone call? I didn't ask
I simply asked him, I simply told him that there were
what was
these
going on.
visions and
Yeah,
things and that I didn't really trust myself. And all I asked him was, is it real?
real, yeah.
And he said, yes, it is.
And that you
I went,
should write
oh,
everything down.
yes,
You should write
yes,
everything down, right? And
yes,
so that's how that Ishawi process started.
yes.
Anyway, so it continues, and then what happened is um, I'm in Durban, then I went from Durban to Kokstad, and I had the conversation with him again. And in the conversation, I asked him about this work with you. I asked him about this work with you, and then he says to me, "But I don't know that if." So he doesn't answer. He keeps avoiding the topic. He keeps not answering the question that I'm asking him. So eventually, on a Friday morning, I say, "This can't keep coming up. What is this about? What is this about?" And
Mm.
then he answers, "Well, I don't know if you're ready. I don't know if you're ready." And then he explains what the work will do. that it will ground the light in my body. That's what he said. It will ground the light in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so then I'm like, and then then he says to me, just give me a moment. I'll call you back, he says. Then I said, no, 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 I'll call you. He says, no, I'll call you back. So what he then does is interesting. So I have to return a DVD that I rented. It was still in the time when you had to rent DVDs to watch movies. So I'm going into the shop of the DVD, and as I enter, I feel this incredible jolt of energy enter my body from the base of my spine, like move through it feels like it's moving through all the extremities of my body really rapidly. So much so that I had to like hold onto the shelf. It was like a burning electric sensation moving in my body. And then my phone rings and it's him and he asks, and now how do you feel? So I tell him and he laughs. He laughs at me. And he said, well, you wanted to. And then he gave his permission for me to do this work with you. And we have now our center in Ishawi was there at the time, and this is where the work was going to happen. This initial mirrors work retreat, and so we start to. You were a little anxious, so I asked you, "What are you anxious about?" I remember, and then you said, "I can't tell you. I can't tell you what, but you have to find it." And so I remember I was sitting and you were in the kitchen preparing breakfast, and I can feel the tension from the kitchen. And then I tell you, oh, I had a dream last night, and you asked me to tell you the dream, and I tell you the dream, and then you ask me, what does it mean? And so then I gave my mental meaning, right? What I think it means. And again, it was about my judgment of things, the way that I see things, my judgment, especially at the time about non-vegetarians, that whole story. And then you said, no, it doesn't mean that. And then you taught me this technique from what is his name?
Gestalt therapy.
The Gestalt technique, yes.
Yes.
How to let the dream speak.
Yes.
So I applied the technique, and I remember I became really still and fell into myself. And in the technique, one has to become each thing in the dream. And so I became the darkness, I became the building, I became the children in the dream, I became the road, the town, and then suddenly the dream spoke. And there was an incredible stillness. And then suddenly I felt my awareness drop more inside. And I could see then that you were anxious about giving or imparting this, whatever was going to happen in the in the ensuing days. You were anxious about it because I had to acknowledge you as a teacher. I had to acknowledge you.
Because you had to put away your pride.
Yes.
Yes.
And that I had to submit
Yes.
to this and acknowledge you as the one who is giving. And you were nervous about that because in the understanding, I would only accept such a thing from Guruji as my guru.
Yeah.
And so then it happened. It happened. The work started, and it reached. So there were many things that stand out for me in that 9 days. And one of the things that was really amazing was that whatever we are going through is reflected in our immediate reality. So this is when the mirror became really real for me. And you were nervous because it was literally the first time that you were doing that work in that way. And it was super confrontational because what it would basically be is that whatever Shirdi Baba had told you, you were putting it to me, and I had to sit with it, and I had to sit with it.
That's why you had to acknowledge me as the teacher just for that
Yes,
time,
for that
because
time, yeah.
because you weren't allowed to argue.
Yes,
You weren't allowed to
I
say
had
no.
to swallow.
No,
I had
that's
to
not
swallow.
true.
Yes,
Yes,
I had to
yes,
swallow, and
yeah,
I had to sit with it.
yeah,
I really had to sit with it.
yeah,
And so we would sit across from one another, and sometimes the meditations would go for up to. I remember the longest one we did was almost 8 hours. We were sitting.
yes,
One day we had sat for about 8 hours.
yeah,
And whenever I became like listless or different, you had signals to know what was going on inside of me because the dog would show you.
yeah,
Because when I became like, oh my God,
yeah,
then he would like throw his body against the garage door and you would know.
yeah,
And then and then I would open my eyes and straight after you'd open your eyes and you're like, no, you go back. You go back. And then and then when I was defending something, that like the dog would bark uncontrollably, like
yeah,
really uncontrollably. And then again, so it was about that submission and seeing that accept and it can pass.
yes, and take responsibility. All of the principles, you have to take
Yeah.
responsibility for who you
Responsibility
are.
for you,
And
for
this is
your
all set
part.
out
Yeah.
for you by
Yeah.
Guruji, all his
Yeah.
work. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And so next, what happened is we would go on forest walks. And I remember in the first walk, I saw a strangler fig is a tree that grows into another tree and eventually strangles and kills it.
mhm,
And so I was looking at it, and in that time, I was in my mind. What I was seeing was how my pride strangled myself, was strangling me, and because again the mind focuses only on the problem, right? It
yeah,
doesn't focus on the solution.
yeah,
It was only years later, Ashudasi, that I saw that that's not the it's not the case at all. It's not the case at all. The strangler fig is the truth.
yeah, yeah,
It is the truth. It is what remains after the tree of the eye dies.
yeah, yeah. But
Oh, but
we
it
have
took
to go through
years.
different layers of
Oh,
understanding
it
as
took
we evolve.
years.
Yeah,
It took years, and that stayed with me. Those walks remained with me.
yeah,
And I remembered like how in my mind I was trying to control what I would see,
yeah,
and then how you could see that I was doing that I was doing that because there were certain things that would confirm something, and
yeah,
it was amazing. It was amazing.
yeah. It was.
So then, so then the next part to that really was that was initial, right? That was we reached 9 days, and I think I got really too scared. I got too
Mm,
scared to go further.
yeah,
But already what had been left with me was the ability to see myself in nature, right? I
yeah,
could then, my awareness was tuned to nature. And I remember the tinge of pride emerged with that ability. I could feel it inside of me. And then we were leaving. I remember David was driving us.
yeah,
So we were driving back to Durban with David. And then there was this huge accident on the road where a huge truck and trailer carrying Coca-Cola and other beverages went from one side of the road to the other. And and so there was like a massive deluge of glass and Coca on the road. And so you asked me to see what it was about. You asked to see if I could see what it was about. And I was trying to apply, but I couldn't see what it was about at all. And then we carried on driving, and we stopped in Stanger, and I remember we saw Chakradara, and you spoke to him about something, and then we reached to Durban, and then you left. And then I came back to Johannesburg after some time, and I remember feeling the completely, how to I even explain? like seeing. I could see that I didn't grasp completely. So what then happened is Guruji, I asked to Guruji if I can do a 40 days of silence, and he consented to this. He consented to it. And so what I was basically going to do is to pool whatever it is that I'd received when we did our work together, is that I would pool and then um, see how it would, like, where it sits and what happens. And so I started it in Coxted. But there was so much sound disturbance. So after 1 week, I couldn't. The noise, the sound became so much. So even the smaller sound would become really big, and I remember at the time of a dear friend of mine was murdered, and so I could hear the people in the road speaking about it, and so I was really distracted. And so again, I returned to Eshawi. And I was sitting, and so what Guruji had said is no reading, no writing, no, like, outside stimulus, and that I just basically have to be in the space, and whatever is happening, and so automatically the senses will work. So the sense of hearing became really heightened, the sense of smell became really heightened, the sense, for the first time I experienced what it's like to zoom in and out with my eyes. It was automatically happening. And so just being in the space, and experiencing, like, nature became an incredible teacher. So everything that I'd learned in that mirrors work that I did with you came to me. Came. So so I did the same process. I would sit in the morning, sit in the afternoon, and sit in the evening for at least 2 or 3 hours, and sometimes the time would become really extended, and I would just be sitting and looking internally. So in the morning and evening, I would do my kriya, and in the afternoon, it would just be a meditation, just sitting, just sitting, just sitting. And there was one day when I was sitting at the window, sitting, and there's this big window in front of the round window in front of me, and suddenly I saw inside of me everything that Guruji is. I saw everything, the hugeness of how vast he is, the magnitude and also the magnanimity of him, how magnanimous he is. And I was shaken by this. And then the next thing that wormed its way in is how unworthy I am of that.
Yes, wormed its way. That's a good way
Yes,
of putting it.
it
Yes.
wormed its way
Yes.
in, that I don't deserve.
Yeah.
I don't deserve it. I don't deserve him. I don't deserve this place. I don't deserve.
A deeply
But
unloving
yes,
thought that stops you from
yes,
growing. Yeah.
yes, I don't deserve it.
Mm.
And so I felt anchorless after that, because as much as it can be the truth, right? That who really deserves that much love or grace from him? Who deserves it? None of us deserve it. But that doesn't mean he's not going to give it unlimited. He will give.
We all deserve it. It's just it's a natural right, but we have to
But
we can't they can't live side by side, the thoughts of
yes,
our
yes,
humanity and all the thoughts, the unloving thoughts that go with that.
it
They
can't.
can't live side by side.
It
You
can't
have to give
host.
you have to give up
It
all
can't
the rest.
host.
And then
it can't host.
Then you have him. Yes.
And so then what he does, so still our relationship, it's still very, so then I call him and I tell him I can't do this. I can't be this person. I can't be a Swami, I say to him. And I don't even know how it came to that place. And then he says, okay, you take a break. And he makes like a whole conversation about it. And I'm like, cool, I'll wear the brown clothes of a brahmachari, and I'm cool with that. And so then he comes to South Africa. And so for me, it's now I'm resigned to that. I'm resigned to the fact that this is, but what it was the mind's disguise for keeping my story.
Yes.
For keeping my story about who it is, what it is. I think because I can keep control. If I'm less than, I can keep control.
Mm-hmm.
I can keep the story, right? And so I feel justified in that, and I feel in my place with that. So he comes to South Africa, and we in Ishawi again. So Ishawi is really significant, and that's when he initiated Shafali's mom as a brahmachari. He did several things, and so he was going to open the Shanta Narasimha temple in Stanger. And so I remember he was painting a picture of Saint, uh, what is his name? The Violet Flame Saint, what is his name?
I've forgotten.
But it's an important fact.
Begins with G.
Saint Germain. But
Yeah.
he was painting a portrait of Saint Germain, but not Germain of the Violet Flame,
Mm.
just Saint Germain, because he had given a relic of
Mm.
Saint Germain to the Sainte in Ishawi.
Mm.
So he's making this big painting of Saint Germain, and then he says to me, "Are you ready to go? To the opening of the temple in Stanger?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." And I was wearing a brown, and he says, "You can't go like that." He says to me, "You can't go like that." And then I say, "What do you mean?" And he says, "Put on your orange clothes." And in my mind, I'm like, "But we've had this conversation." And then he looks at me and he says, "I'm your guru, and I'm telling you to put on your orange clothes." And by now, the thought had been so ingrained in me, and I'm so justified in that I don't deserve. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this place. And the story had been well established. And he says to me, "Just put on." And I say, "I don't have any clothes here." And he says, "No, I will give you a dhoti." So I'm like, okay, but dhoti, and then what about? And then Shafali's mom screamed from inside, "Actually, you have clothes here. You left them here when you were lost." And I'm like, damn, damn. So now I'm in the car and I'm really pissed. I'm angry that
You're
my
back on the job.
undeservingness,
You're back on the job.
my undeservingness didn't win. And he comes out and he said something so beautiful to me. He's coming up the stairs to the car, and he says, "What's your problem? You are born to do this. This is who you are." And together with all the feelings, everything disappeared.
Yeah.
Everything was gone.
Yes.
And we drive there, and he literally lets me lead in the puja.
But doesn't
And
this
everything,
story, doesn't your story, yes, Swami, doesn't it just speak to the minds of so many devotees who
all of us,
come to
Ashadasi,
Bhakti Marga?
all of
We've
us,
all got a
all of
story,
us,
particularly when we first join,
all of
about
us.
how we don't fit.
Yeah.
It's not really for us.
Yes.
And, you know, oh, there's
Yes.
story after story about our unworthiness or our inability to fit, or, you know, yada, yada, yada. There's always
Yeah.
something. And it always speaks about our, I think, our original, indoctrinations about God,
Yeah.
about being, about how we've got to earn it and all of this stuff, and not realizing that we are part of God and that it's our birthright. And all we have to do is let go of these ridiculous thoughts.
Yeah.
Just laugh at them if we can. That's why, when you're telling your story, it makes me laugh because, I mean, just the ridiculous nature of our
Of our
unworthiness.
minds. Yeah.
Yes, it's, it really is.
It
So,
was so crazy. And then,
mm,
and how easy he made it. It was there one moment and not there the next.
yes, yes,
And I think whenever it's private for us, whenever it's like a personal, inner, difficult, monotonous struggle, it's like this because we're holding it.
yes,
We're
yes,
holding it.
yeah.
It's not even holding us, we're holding it.
Yeah, and think about, and I think this is something for viewers, devotee viewers in particular who are watching, is that when we hold on to those thoughts, we can't do as Guruji wants us to do, which is to
No,
transform.
no.
Because all the time you're saying, I'm not good enough, then that's it. That's the boulder in the road to that God realization
And
is
it
it
becomes like
stops
the
you.
bottom line. It becomes like the bottom line. And you
Yeah.
go around and around the boulder. The boulder becomes the
Well, you
deity.
cling to it, don't you? It's like you're
The
clinging to it and saying, I want to God
It's
realize, I
so
want to God
crazy.
realize, but you're clinging to this thought. If you
So
just throw
crazy.
it out, all we have to
So
do is throw
crazy.
it out and say, well, that isn't true. And that's
Yeah.
why the mirrors work is so important, because it helps you to identify those thoughts. And
It's almost as if you put to words, right? It's almost as if you put to process
yeah,
the entire journey that I've been with Guruji.
yes,
It's that is
yeah,
how I see it. It's almost like whatever it is that went down, whatever it is that happened and
mm,
continues to happen inside of me, it's almost like it through the document, I can say, through the document of this process of the mirrors concept, it's almost like you put it down onto paper, like what are the things that happen and that are happening and that are going to happen.
yeah,
It's a tracked possibility for each
yeah,
person.
yes, exactly, exactly. And I think we all move through unworthiness. And I think
Yeah,
that's what's really important. Sorry, I think my camera's
yeah,
playing up here.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, yeah, we move through that unworthiness, and that gets in the way. And what the mirrors work does, it helps you to identify that sensation and to do something about it and to remove it. There are
yeah,
processes that help you to remove such
yeah,
thoughts.
yeah.
So and
And
so
in a step-by-step way. So
mm,
like how I was experiencing it, and in that case it was experiential, right? And then
mm,
the knowledge of what it is that was happening came afterwards, which is
yeah,
how it has worked and works with Guruji. If I look at the Datmi Vedanta, right, and what he's giving at the bottom line is experience first,
yes,
knowledge after. So that was such a raw, real experience. And
yes,
I know that so many devotees are going through similar things and similar feelings and may want to and may feel justified in holding on to their maybe even resentment, maybe even anger, maybe even fear. I know because I felt all of those things. I went through
yes,
all of those things.
yes. Me
And
too.
then yeah, and then to see afterwards how if I accept them, they become the possibility for me to experience the love that Guruji speaks about
Yeah.
inside of myself, the
Mm,
connection that he speaks about inside of myself,
mm,
but not 1 second before that acceptance doesn't happen
yeah.
because that acceptance is putting it at his feet. That
Yes.
acceptance is saying, yes, Guruji, I see how stubborn, how ignorant, and it's on multiple levels that I'm ignorant, on multiple levels that I'm stubborn, on multiple levels that I'm prideful. It's not only one dimensional, it's
Yeah.
in so many
Yeah.
ways and it's so subtle. And
Yes.
it wants all the time to come in.
Yes. And that,
So I
and we have to learn to identify it and to,
Yeah,
to see it because it's very persistent. All of these thoughts,
It's
they're
very
ancient.
persistent.
They're
It's very
ancient.
persistent.
They belong to
Yeah.
our ancestors as well, and
Yeah.
it's they've set grooves within ourselves in our
Yeah.
thinking. So they're going to try to regain dominance, but all the time that you have the mirror's processes, you can fend them off.
Yeah.
You
And what is more ancient is the love that God feels for us, and
know.
that the Guru is the embodiment of that grace and that
Yes,
love.
yes,
This is more. And I think when we see that, the moreness, it becomes possible to endeavor on the journey.
yes,
And we would have to, if we want to transform, we have to endeavor on the journey.
yes.
We have to endeavor on the journey of seeing, oh,
Mm.
these are my limiting beliefs. This is the story that I have. And you know what he says is, until there is unconditional trust and acceptance, we cannot anything. We
Yeah,
cannot move here or there. But I understand that that's a journey. And it's not possible for me to unconditionally accept as it is that I am now.
mm.
There are too many other things that seem more real.
Yes,
There are
yeah,
too many other things that seem more important.
yeah,
And so it's a journey. And for me, the mirrors has been that journey.
yeah.
The
Mm.
mirror concept has been that journey. And I've walked it, seeing it in the experience that Guruji has given me, which is irreplaceable. But
Mm.
it makes sense. It makes sense of that amorphous transformation that's happening. It makes sense of it. It categorizes it. It puts it in such a way that I can engage it.
Yes,
So it has been an incredible gift for me, Ashadasi. And I'm so grateful for Guruji for bringing or for making it such that you're in my life, and that this process came into my life, and that it has been repetitively, miraculously coincided. And I mean, there are so many stories about things that have happened. And like, for example, how we reconnected after you moved to the Middle East first.
yes.
How we reconnected. I was in Wales, and your thoughts kept coming into my, and we had no way, there was no way I could contact you. I didn't have your number. I didn't have you were not active on any social media profiles. There was no way to reach you.
Yes.
And then it was like in the middle of the night, I found a blog that you had written about grief,
Mhm.
and there was your email
Yeah,
address. And
yeah,
so I wrote you an email, and then you knew already that I would contact you because you said it to your husband the day before. And
yeah.
when the next day you opened your email, there, there
There
I
you were.
was. So, what I think what I want to say in closing, because I think we can talk for a lot more time, is that it's so vital, that the journey between Ashadasi and I is pivoted around Guruji.
Yes.
It has everything to do with him,
Mhm.
and it is pivoted especially in our wrong perception, the wrong perception that we had about ourselves, and the wrong perception that we had about him.
And what's so great was that the mirror's work took us to him,
Yes,
especially me, because
yes,
I mean,
yeah,
you remember from 2008 when I tried to convince you, 2006,
yeah.
sorry, when I tried to convince you,
Convince you, no,
don't go
yeah,
there, don't go there.
yeah, yeah,
Gurus are not
yeah,
all that is.
yeah,
And then how many years later, and I was at his feet.
yeah. It only took 14 years.
Yeah, it took a while, and the mirror's work actually reflects that journey, which is so amazing.
But
You know,
that's what I can see now. That's what
yes,
I can see now for
yes,
myself.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's
And
yeah, so
it's such an amazing archive.
yes,
The process
yeah,
is such an amazing archive.
yes,
So I'm
yeah,
so grateful for it, and that it doesn't
yeah,
stop. It doesn't stop.
yeah. Well, hopefully we're going to be, at the moment we are piloting it, and
Yeah.
we've done a couple of courses in the
In
UK,
England, yeah.
yeah, and we're scheduled for China, hopefully.
Kenya.
Kenya and South Africa.
South Africa,
yeah. So those are the pilots courses, and then we'll branch out once we have all of our evaluations out, and then we will get to everybody else. But yes, we'll continue to talk about this, because the next podcast we do, Swami, is about you teaching the course and what experiences you've had with
and they've been
since 2014.
so interesting.
You've got some very interesting stories there of people who have gone through the process, and we might even talk to some of those people.
Some of them, yes, definitely.
Yes, yeah,
definitely.
So Swamiji, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ashadasi.
Thank you for sharing this journey with me. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah. Okay.
And who thought it would end like this?
Oh wow, we didn't know.
We didn't think.